Hey everyone, last week we looked at some comps that you should try in set 3, but now the dust has settled a little bit from all the creators, gangplankers left this week, we can look at our 5 best comps to play in ranked. This list is curated by our experts, including Ace of Spades, who is live playing them pretty much every single day, and you can find the link for his stream down below. You can find all of the comps in this video, along with a bunch of others as well, including our new leveling guides on our website, so you can follow along with them in game. We are going to start with the S tier composition, so these are the best at getting that first place, and we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. First of all, the best of the best, the Rebels. Rebels are really good early game, and one of the best late game with Aurelion Soul and a Gangplank, so you can't really go wrong. The other issue is this comp can be forced quite easily, plus items are relatively flexible, so you can use them if you find them early, or get to level 8 quickly and then roll for them instead. This comp is going to massively spike up when you find your Aurelion, and then when you find your Gangplank as well. So you have two kind of carries in this, and the damage boost is huge anyway, but you'll start to win before that juicy shield even runs out with the 6 rebels. If you aren't sure, for every adjacent rebel, so for each rebel it's next to, you gain a shield for 8 seconds and a damage boost. At 3, it's 150 health and 10% damage, which early game is a lot of extra to get through and normally lets you snowball, so that's kind of our early game. When you find 6 of them, it's 225 health and a 12% damage boost, and this is where the Aurelion Soul comes in. He gains 5 of these buffs because you put him right in the middle, which massively increases damage and makes him almost burst as well. You also kind of have access to backline as well, so you can kill the enemy carries because he just flies around and he targets randomly, right? Plus Gangplank, when you get the upgrade for increased area, can hit everything. This is why we stack items like Seraphs, which give you more ultimates like constantly throughout the fight, Gunblade, which is healing after the shield runs out, and then Spark as well because he flies around everyone and constantly procs it. The other side of the comp is using the 2 strongest legendaries in the game at the moment, well, most likely anyway, but it has a lot of flex to it. GP is the best as he does huge AoE damage and he can hold pretty much whatever items you have spare outside of Aurelion. This is where you would swap items from Yasuo over to him. Lulu is also really good because it gives you Mystic, which is great. It's good versus other Rebel comps anyway because of that, and the Polymorph gives you time for GP and Aurelion to ultimate in the first place. There are lots of different things you can do with this composition, like making Aurelion Soul a Demolitionist. It can be insane as he stuns everybody with his ultimate, and the same goes for making GP a rebel and buffing up his damage. You should be looking to go to level 8 very quickly if you have a healthy early game, even if you don't probably anyway. The idea is to build a good board, save gold, and then roll at level 8. That means early game, you're looking for any 2-star champions that you can find, even if they aren't rebels. Actually, you can find them later, it doesn't really matter. Prioritize items for Aurelion Soul first, but you can combine others to save health. So for example, like Guardian Angel is really good for GP, even defensive items like Bramble Vest. When you get to mid-game, level 6 or 7, if you find 6 rebels, you can play that straight away. If you have good Jinx items especially, then play around her and you can get some blasters. You can also run stuff like Misfortune and Kale if you find those for Blade Master and Valkyrie and Blaster instead of the GP and Lulu if you can't get them. It really depends on the game. So next up, we're going to have one of our newer-ish ones, which is a Protector reroll strat. So Protectors are relatively easy to 3-star, and the actual bonus shield scales with maximum health, so this is more of an outlast everybody comp and survive. If you do find a lot of early Protector units or lots of defensive items like Chain Vests or Negatron Cloaks, then this is a really good comp to go for. On their own, Protectors are possibly the worst frontliner compared to Brawlers or compared to Vanguards, but when you 3-star them or you itemize them properly, this completely changes. The more times they can use their ultimate, the more time they get the bonus shield, right? So defensive items that keep them alive are absolutely amazing. Xin Zhao is going to be your primary carry since he'll ultimate all the time, do some pretty good damage, and survive forever. So you're looking for items like Dragon's Claw to ignore most magic damage, which is normally Rebels. Bramble Vest is going to do really well against AD comps and dish out some good damage, and then Warmogs to regen health and to boost your shield as well. Rakan is your secondary carry and can use a lot of different items, both damage and defense, so Thieves Glove is really good and you can never go wrong. Otherwise, Spirit of Shojin should be your go-to item so you can ult a lot more, a Guardian Angel to survive, and then some damage items like Morello's, even Luden's actually pretty good for him. Now, the bonus shield you actually get from Protector is also based on maximum percentage health, so when you're at 3-star, you get a bunch more health as shield is way bigger, and so that's why you want to 3-star them. The core playstyle here is saving as much money as possible early while picking up some core units and trying to save as much health as possible. Normally, you don't spend your gold on leveling and just save for interest instead, and then during stage 3, you should have over 50 gold. Normally, you push for 6 at 3-2, but with this composition, it's better to stay at level 5 and then roll down to 50 every turn. This is called slow rolling, and you probably heard it a couple of times before, but it protects your economy. It only works if nobody else is going to go Protectors though, and if you aren't losing too much health every single turn. Either way, if you want to fast roll down or slow roll down, you want to find your 3-star Xin Zhao and Rakan, and then you want to push the level. Those two are going to be your priorities in this comp, that's why you want to 3-star those, but usually you'll end up finding stuff like Jarvan and Rolling and accidentally 3-star that as well, so make sure you do pick it up. Defensive items can also be the best way to win streak early game or protect your health, so try to scout and see if players are building AD or AP items so you can build against them. Early game 4 protectors can save you a lot of health if you find an early Nico, but otherwise 2-star units to hold items is more than fine, and you don't actually have to play protectors. You can play anything you want to, but try to always make interest gold where you can, and make sure you do pick them up if you see them. Mid game is going to feel a lot different because you'll spend a lot of time rolling rather than pushing levels. You're going to be at 6 units for quite some time, and normally it's good to have a Karma buff up your Xin and then throw in another Mystic. You can also use Celestials for the healing bonus, which is really nice, but eventually you want to move into Mystic so you can play against those pesky rebels. You can also use Infiltrators with this comp and 3-star Kai'Sa and Shaco while finding these other protectors, and it works amazingly well if you find a protector spat for Kai'Sa as well. One of my newest comps that we found recently is a Jhin carry. So this comp uses Jhin as a hyper carry with Ashe at the very back, slowly beating down enemies, having lots of protection around them both. If you find early Jhin, Dark Stars or Snipers early, then this is a pretty good comp to run, but make sure you have the items for Jhin. This comp will go through a few different stages, but endgame you will have 4 Mystic, which is huge protection for Rebels, Vanguards, Dark Stars to buff Jhin, Snipers for more damage, and Celestial to heal them. Since the items you buy are so important in this comp, that's where we're going to start. So Infinity Edge is your core since it boosts his general AD, but gives him the crit damage bonus on Jhin as well. Guardian Angel allows him to survive basically any comp in the game. You have stuff like GP ult later, Aurelian's random targeting, Misfortune, Ultimate, Infiltrators, whatever it is, you kind of need a defensive item. Last Whisper is the flex item in this. You can use Runes to hit more people instead if you want to. It actually does a ton of damage, by the way, because of Dark Star and his AD and healing if you have a lifesteal item. So Bloodthirster is actually pretty good to throw on him as well, but basically it revolves around one defensive item or lifesteal and then damage. With the Sniper buff and Darkstar working together, he puts out stupid damage with damage items, with good items, which allows him to burn through every other comp because realistically, your other units aren't really going to do much damage at all. Frontline units are not normally prioritized in this meta late game, and even protectors are supposed to outlast as well, not do a ton of damage themselves. This is kind of where a Mystic comes in. It gives a lot of magic resist, sure, anyway, but each unit can heal, shield, or polymorph to make the fight last a lot longer. It's very similar to Draven from set 1. You stick him near the corner, you protect him, and he does the rest. This can be a little bit of a difficult comp to show you in a video like this because 4 Mystics is the late game. So really it's 4 Vanguards into 4 Mystics when frontline means less and magic damage is higher. You can play this with Protectors if you want to as well, or even 6 Dark Stars, though it's not normally as good or it's kind of a little bit less consistent. Also remember that Ashe will fire her arrow to the furthest enemy, so you want to position her on the opposite side to the carry that you want to stun. So early game, 4 Vanguards is the best start for this and probably one of the best starts in the game in general anyway, especially if you pick up an early Jace. You can run Snipers if you find an early 2-star Caitlyn with Ashe, but it's honestly not needed. You just pick it up if you find it. Mid-game, ideally you want to have Jhin, obviously, that's the point of the comp, but actually if you're winning, you don't have to swap straight away, and 4 Vanguards is actually really good with Jace carry. 4 Vanguard, 2 Sniper is definitely a very good mid-game start though, or 3 Dark Stars, but at level 7 you want to roll and find your Jhin, and then snowball to 8 and find your Mystics. For our next 2, we've actually talked about these already in our top 5 comps, so you have to try video that we did last week, but they're still really good and definite contenders. So Cybernetics are still S tier for us. They gain bonus health and damage while holding a component or a completed item, but this is one of the few comps that can actually out-snowball Rebels. If you find an early Lucian, you get an early Red buff or a Giant Slayer, really good item for him, then this can be a great comp to run, and if not, you can pivot into Blasters anyway. Cybernetics are not the most consistent first place comp, but they are very good at top 4, and you can definitely do it, you can definitely win, but it's a bit more item dependent and requires more skill. Most games will be different when you play this, weighing up which items to go on who, if you leave some as just components for the stats, so that's a lot harder than the other comps. Echo is also a bit of a bait right now. He's very good, but Irelia is one of your true carry units with Lucian alongside of him, so it isn't all or nothing on your Echo. An early game red buff or Giant Slayer on Lucian can let you win streak, and that gold will carry you to level 8 where you can find your Echo, so that is really important. Echo can hold almost anything, but since he can use defensive, AP, AD items all really well, Thieves Glove is naturally a really good choice and a good item to win streak earlier to have on anyone. While we don't show it here because there's honestly just too many item choices for this composition, Infinity Edge and Guardian Angel are really good on Irelia and will definitely make her a true carry if you can pick them up. The problem with this composition is it's almost too flexible. If Lucian has items, you can run Blasters with Ezreal and Shen that we show here, which gives Chrono, Blaster, and Blademaster, but there are a lot of different options like Mystics too. One thing you do want to try and do though is to hold spares of Leona and Fiora so you can get the items off of them later and transfer to Irelia and stuff like that. You'll need these items to win streak early, but you don't want to get stuck not being able to sell them later. Lucian is going to be one of the main ways that you keep health early game, which is really important when you want to hunt for your Echo later, so always try to grab a good item for him to start with. That kind of leads on to our early game as well. Having components and buffing all your cybernetics up is really good, but a good completed item like red buff on Lucian is going to be better than splitting a belt and vest onto two different cybernetics. That is actually one of the reasons why it can be really hard to play this, because there is no set one way to do it, and using different synergies like Vanguards, Brawlers, and Blasters early to snowball would definitely help as well. Mid-game can be a little bit hard for cybernetics. You'll need to use other synergies so you don't lose too much health, but as soon as you find your Irelia and hopefully have some items for her, then you want to put her out. Using her is a huge boost in power. You will need to find your Echo eventually, which is another really big boost as well, but that most of the time is going to come at level 8. When you get it, you get a huge spike, but you don't want to try and roll too hard at level 7 unless you're sitting on pairs and close to an upgrade or you're losing too much health. You really need level 8 and then roll. So those are our 4 S tier compositions, but the good part about set 3 is there are a lot of other decent comps as well that can still do well and actually still even win. You just might get blasted by these others unless you high roll. So I want to talk about a mech composition for our last one of the video. We have 2 that are very good, magic mechs and then mech infiltrators. Mech infiltrators are a bit different. They really use the mech as a frontline unit so the infiltrators can kill everything, and then magic mechs are going to use that mech huge frontline but turn him into burst with the extra sorcerer buff. If you can find early Fizz, early sorcerers have good items for the mech as well. This is a really good comp to go for with the magic mech. One of the good things about this as well is that it spikes way earlier than others, as early as level 6 but definitely level 7, and gets stronger at level 8. The other comps here are more about just rushing to level 8 or hard rerolling, and in theory this comp doesn't really need to do either. Items are very important for this though, so let's go there first. SirhcEz is a core piece of the puzzle, as your Ahri or Syndra will do a ton more damage compared to without it. The mech having good items though is probably the difference between like a top 4 finish and like a top 2 finish. So Guardian Angel has really good synergy with the revive. It buys a lot more time in fights, and that is probably the best one to get. QSS or Quicksilver Sash is also huge because it means you can't get crowd control, but it means you can't get Zephyred, which is really good when this is your only frontline. The last spot is usually damage, since we've got lots of Sorks to buff it up, and it's just not going to be a meat shield, spell crit, Morellos, anything like that is pretty good. Other defensive items, by the way, do work, and sometimes you'll just have to make do with what you have, but these are definitely the best. Things like Bramble, Warmogs, or ZZ Rot are also really good. This comp does have a lot of flex to it, but usually you'll be playing the mech plus 3 more sorcerers, which is just 6 units and has the 4 sorcerer buff already. Then you're going to add in Demolitionist, which gives the mech an AoE stun, and then at level 8 you can either swap that out for 6 sorcerers or put it in a legendary unit that can use the bonus spell power. I personally find 6 sorcerer to be a bit more fun, and if you go to 9 as well, then you can have the Demolitionist on top of it, or you find a Demolitionist spatula and make one of your mages stun whenever they cast. What we've talked about so far is probably not going to be enough to get you that first place, so if you want to win with this composition, you have to have 3 stars. Annie and Rumble to start with are core since they give bonus stats to the mech, and they're also going to clean up fights afterwards. Then normally you want something like an Ahri or a Syndra for more damage. Syndra is definitely going to be better if you can do it, because she's more likely to hit champions at the back, which are their carries. Those are going to be the 5 best compositions for ranked at the moment. Good luck with your early season climb, and thank you for watching our best comps in TFT rank video. Let us know what you think of our compositions down below. Remember, you can check out all of these on our website. May the RNG gods forever be in your favor, and I'll see you in our next TFT video.